Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, a really good fight has been announced, and it's a fight in which I am really looking forward to. In fact, I'll go as far as saying, when it comes to the schedule that has been set, this fight is one of my most anticipated. And that fight is Josh Taylor versus Teofimo Lopez. This fight goes down on the 10th of June, takes place at Madison Square Garden in New York, and Josh Taylor's WBO super lightweight title will be on the line. I think this is a really good fight, and I'm expecting a really competitive fight here. People's opinions on both guys right now are probably at their lowest. You know, at one point in time, Teofimo was this rising fighter in the lightweight division. Of course, he got the win over Lomachenko. He beat Richard Comey. His career was going from strength to strength, and it looked like Teofimo could become a potential star. Then he ran into George Kambosos. Kambosos secured a massive upset win. Post that fight, we heard a lot of excuses from Teofimo, borderline mental breakdown, that sort of thing. Didn't really take the defeat well, and that led a lot of people to question Teofimo, his mental strength, and how he moves on from that. He's come back, got a couple of wins. He initially returned and beat Pedro Campa. He stopped him in 7 or 8 rounds, whatever it was. Pedro Campa really was there. He was made to order, to be honest, to make Teo look good. But in Teo's last fight, he fought Sandor Martin in a 10-rounder. Teo actually got put down in that fight. He wasn't hurt, it was a balance thing. And yeah, he didn't look good in that fight. Some people actually felt Sandor Martin won that fight. I disagree. I felt Teo won, but I don't think Teo looked particularly good, to be honest. As for Josh Taylor, of course, undisputed champion at one time, at 140, beat Prograis, beat Baranchik, beat Postal, beat Jose Ramirez. He was going through some really good competition on his way to becoming undisputed. And yeah, he had a great run. But in his last fight, which by the way was February of 2022, he fought Jack Catterall and he looked awful, got dropped in that fight, and in my opinion, that wasn't a flash knockdown. Taylor felt that shot, and I felt Taylor was buzzed a couple more times in that fight as well. And yeah, most people felt Jack Catterall beat Josh Taylor, and yeah, there was a lot of outcry after that fight in regards to the decision. And again, how Josh Taylor reacted to that fight put a lot of people's backs up. You know, no humility, no honesty. He knows he lost that fight basically, but he's putting on the brave face for social media. Didn't really come across all that well. Plus, he's been stripped of basically every title apart from the WBO title. So he's no longer undisputed. He himself right now, boxing fans' opinions on Josh Taylor are as low as they've ever been, quite frankly. People have kind of jumped off the Josh Taylor bandwagon as they have Teofimo. So yeah, both guys were once highly regarded, but right now, you know, both guys need to get back into the good graces of the boxing fan. So both guys really have something to fight for here. They are fighting to basically re-inject that momentum into their careers that has been lost. Both guys are in a similar position when it comes to that. And I feel the same way that a lot of boxing fans do about these two guys. I've never really been a big fan of Teofimo Lopez. I've always seen him as a talented fighter, but I always kind of found him cringy outside the ring, and the way he handled that George Kambosos defeat was quite embarrassing as far as I'm concerned. As for Josh Taylor, used to be a big supporter of Josh Taylor. Loved his undisputed run. But again, the way he's kind of conducted himself after the Jack Catterall fight has been a little too lowbrow for my liking. As well as the fact that, as far as I'm concerned, he basically ducked that rematch it was set, all of a sudden Josh Taylor picks up an injury and this fight gets signed. Personally, I don't think Josh Taylor was injured, and we saw that when Jack Catterall and Josh Taylor had their coming together at a boxing event. You know, Josh Taylor was jumping up and down when apparently he had a bad foot injury that was supposed to take, 8-10 weeks to recover from. I don't believe Josh Taylor was injured, personally. He's just going where the money is, and I say he's ducked Jack Catterall. I think he has, but is it a duck because Teofimo is still dangerous? It's just slimy, and it kind of just matches up with Josh Taylor's behaviour after that Catterall fight. He's been slimy, very passive aggressive, sitting behind his keyboard. It's just not been a good look for Josh Taylor, personally. The whole Catterall saga, it's not been a good look, but it is what it is. We are where we are, and we have Josh Taylor versus Teofimo Lopez. Still a good fight. And again, given what is on the line for both guys, I do think that makes the fight that much better, to be honest. To me, the titles are secondary, or the title is secondary when it comes to this fight. The WBO title is secondary. This fight really is about either one of these guys regaining that momentum in their careers and, you know, starting to get back into the good graces of the boxing fan, because, again, both fighters have lost that in recent times. I see this as a very dangerous fight for both men. As for Teofimo was a big lightweight. He was thick, he was big. Really, he should be campaigning at 140. But he's going to be the smaller man in this fight. Josh Taylor is, 5'11"? He's a big super lightweight. In fact, I thought he would be at welterweight by this point. Josh Taylor's got the size advantage, and as we know, Taylor, he can really implement that in his fights. I mean, that was the reason he won the Regis Prograis fight. When he was trying to box with Prograis was getting the better of Josh Taylor. But then Taylor took it to the inside, he crowded the space, he worked up close, he was rough, he was rugged. That's what won him that fight, the size and the strength and the ability on the inside. Because in the boxing match, he was coming up second best. And yeah, Taylor is a strong dude. He can get on top of you. He can utilise that size to his advantage by forcing you back, working you over up close, dragging you into a bit of a war of attrition. So Teo's got that to contend with. Plus, you know, Josh Taylor, he is a good boxer in his own right. He can box a bit, Josh Taylor. He doesn't do it that much, but he can do it to a decent standard. He can pop the jab, keep distance. He was doing that at times against Ramirez with some success. So he can box a bit as well, Josh Taylor. He is relatively well-rounded. He carries decent power. He's a really good body puncher. Josh Taylor is relatively well-rounded. And that, in combination with size, is definitely going to be a tough ask for Teofimo Lopez. It'll be a tough fight for him. However, you know, Teofimo is going to be the fresher guy at 140. Teo's recently moved up from 135, so he's not going to be taking as much out of his body as Josh Taylor, who, according to many people, has stayed at 140 for too long now. Again, I expected Taylor to move up to welterweight before now, to be honest. After the fight with Jack Catterall, there was a lot of talk about Taylor going to 147. To be fair, before the Catterall fight at the weigh-in, Josh Taylor looked terrible. He looked gaunt, he looked sickly, there was no colour in his face. To me, it seems that the weight cut is starting to affect Josh Taylor. Plus, there's rumours, I'm sure some of you guys have heard this, or heard these rumours, that Josh Taylor doesn't always live the life outside the ring. If that is the case, that makes the weight cuts much more harder. So yeah, how fresh is Josh Taylor going to be in this fight with Teofimo Lopez, as he still has to cut down to 140? To me, that is something that has to be considered when you talk about this fight. It has to be considered because, you know, the question remains whether Teo's power is going to carry to 140. I still think he hits hard enough. Whether he's the puncher he was at 135, to me, is irrelevant in this fight. Because if it's the same Taylor who turned up against Catterall, I believe there's every chance that Teofimo can hurt Josh Taylor. I believe there's every chance that he can. I would still suspect that Teofimo hits harder than Jack Catterall, and Catterall was able to hurt Josh Taylor, drop him, hurt him, buzz him, etc. And yeah, given Josh Taylor's style, I do think the openings will be there for Teofimo to let go of those power shots. One thing about Teofimo is he does have pretty good timing against aggressive fighters. He's quick to pull the trigger. He's got a good left hook, a good overhand right. He can time good single power shots really well. And if he catches Josh Taylor slipping, he could walk him into big shots. And again, I believe he's got the power to hurt Taylor at 140, especially at this stage of Taylor's career at 140. Could this fight be one too many for Taylor at 140? I think it's a possibility that it may be. I think it's a possibility, and that makes this fight that much more interesting. If you were to ask me, like hypothetically, if Taylor were to make the weight comfortably and he's as fresh as he was against Prograis, for example, then yeah, I would make Taylor a pretty big favourite in this fight. I'm not convinced that Taylor exists anymore at 140, which makes this fight that much more competitive. I've seen people's takes on this fight. There are people out there who still believe that Taylor's going to basically walk through Teo. And I guess it's possible, but I just don't see that happening. I think we've got a very competitive fight here. I'll be honest, I'm at the point right now to where I can't really pick a winner. I will nearer the time. I see this fight at this point in time in their careers nearly a 50-50. Maybe I would still lean towards Taylor, but I'll be very interested to see the betting odds for this fight. How would you price this fight? I'd be interested to see. If Teo's the underdog by any real margin, I'd probably have a bit of money on Teo. I think that could be a good bet. I wouldn't be shocked if he pulls this out. Neither would I be shocked if Taylor wins. It's one of those fights. Taylor may be struggling at the weight. Teo, is his confidence where it needs to be? Can he deal with Josh Taylor's size? This is a good fight. This is a good fight in my opinion. So yeah, right now I'm going to hold off on making any predictions. I'm going to hold off, and once we get nearer the time, I will more than likely make a prediction video for this fight. But anyway, share your thoughts below. How do you see this fight going? One more factor as well. This fight is in New York, Teo's hometown. So I'd assume that Teo's going to have the favour when it comes to judging, officiating, that sort of thing. You would imagine that Top Rank would rather proceed with Teofimo Lopez more so than Josh Taylor, because there's more money in Teofimo in the long run, you would imagine. So that may be worth considering when talking about this fight. But anyway, share your thoughts below. What do you make of this fight? Who are you leaning towards in this fight? Are you like me? Do you see this fight as a fight that could go either way? Maybe I'm crazy, because a few years ago I would have picked Taylor confidently over Teo. These days I'm not so sure. And to me that makes it a good fight. Anyway, share your thoughts below. It's been your guy Delboy. Peace.